Good evening. Tonight we're going to be discussing the social performance of Apple in the world market. In looking at the social performance of Apple, we were looking at the nature and the organization and the products and services that are offered by Apple. All of us are pretty familiar with the products and services that Apple offers. I mean, we're talking about iPhones, iPads, iPods, services like iClouds, iTunes, Mac, computer systems, and then they have their own iOS operating system, which is unique to them as a company. Also, we have other things that they are developing and will be releasing to the public just to kind of generate excitement around the brand. One of the things that has led to the success of Apple is something that is ingrained in everyone who works for Apple is their cultural responsibility. This was introduced by Steve Jobs, who founded Apple. And one of the things that he did when he instilled this cultural responsibility was that accountability went from the top down. Everyone was accountable for everything that happened inside and outside of Apple. Everybody knows what they're responsible for. If I was on a project for Apple product, I would know exactly what I was responsible for in that project. And then it would be my responsibility to make sure that was done. If it's not, I couldn't pass the buck to someone else. I would be the one that would be held responsible and have to deal with the ramifications of that. Simplicity is also a key component at Apple. They don't believe in committees, which a lot of organizations have to make sure that this gets done and that gets done, that it goes through this committee and that committee, and then it finally gets approved, and then, okay, great. No, ideas are either shared at the top or at the bottom, and then they're worked on in between. Concept of general management is very frowned upon there. One thing they believe is that the person who should be over the P&L is the chief financial officer. And that's the only one who should be concerned about it. Nobody else should be. So that's the way they operate inside the store, inside the stores, inside their organization, four walls, anything like that. Secondly, thing we had to look at was two external factors that can affect Apple's success. And looking at environmental factors that can contribute to the success of a company, the two that stood out to me were the economy and competition. The economy stood out because, with the market volatility and the issues with global governments having major debt problems, customer spending could drop. Customers aren't confident in their economy. They're not going to spend money. They're going to want to hold on to it to make sure they have money for the future. Credit markets could also cause issues in the supply chain. It could cause the supply chain to freeze up. If the supply chain freezes up, then the products that Apple are working on will not be created or may get delayed being created. Volatility in the market could actually wipe out Apple's own hedge fund that they actually own. Competition is seen by Apple to be a factor because they believe that the competitors can manufacture and sell knockoff of gadgets that could create and make them cheaper so that customers would want to buy those versus the higher, better quality product that Apple puts out. If too much of that is allowed to happen, it could cause Apple to flounder because they'd be buying too many of the fake products versus the high quality products that Apple puts out. Next thing that we looked at was the 5 ways stakeholders can influence the organization's success. Apple has 4 very important stakeholders. They are the customers, the employees, the investors, and then you have your suppliers and distributors. So the customers are can influence theirs in 2 ways here with Apple. One was pricing of a product. If they believe they're overpaying for a product, they may not buy the product, which means that revenue could fall, which means the company could lose out millions of dollars. Right now, Apple customers pay their money because the quality and aesthetics of the phone match the pricing that Apple is putting out there right now. The second way that customers affected the influence was their demand for business sustainability helped create environmental programs for recycling inside the company. Next, we had to look at the employees of Apple. Just like any other business, if you don't have the employees there to support your products and services, to build your products and services, your company's not going to survive. So employees play a big part in any company, including Apple's success. Next was the investors. Investors are like the money people. If they decide to pull their money and their funding, then the company has to start looking for funding elsewhere, which may hurt their sustainability in the long run. Now, right now, Apple is pretty well sustained, so they don't have a lot of debt, which makes them a very good investment opportunity for their investors. Suppliers and distributors, without them, their products and actually the actual pieces of equipment that they use to build their products would not be delivered to them, and then the actual finished product wouldn't be delivered to their customers. And lastly, we had to look at controversial social responsibility or concerning Apple. And one of the biggest ones out there right now are the labor practices in China. In 2013, Apple was found to have had plants in China where they were working 60 hours plus, which is more than the legal 49 hours allowed in China. Also, there was a plant that was caught working more than 36 hours of overtime. That is the legal amount of overtime allowed in China. And also, there was workers in one facility found to be under the age of 16. Now, since its discovery, Apple has made steps to improve that situation in those environments so that they would not be, and has actually fired several companies because they did not meet their code of conduct. And so there you have it with the social responsibility and performance of Apple as a company. Have a good night.